So, as you could tell, I just got through running across the cornfields with my dogs to come over here on a Saturday and say hi to everybody. So I'll get better at this. We'll get higher quality in the editing room because I do all my own production too. Anyway, again, love you guys. Go say hi to somebody. Just wave at somebody. Start there. Just wave at some people. Younger people, older people. I did that backwards, didn't I? Younger people, older people. Just go out and say hi. Let's start. There was a hashtag that Barbie wants to get started. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look through some of the old films. We need to be pulling together and discussing these items, and not be afraid to have a dinner. What do they call it? Table dinner, or around the dinner table. Politics is a device to keep this country moving forward. I know that all the people in the middle class want this country to keep moving forward. I also know that the politicians we have currently in place on both sides of the aisle, some way more than others, but we have a situation now where the politicians don't want us to necessarily move forward. They want, in our education and our information to be lower and lower so that they can control more. They have very perfect lives, really. And these are the things we don't understand. You know, we need to really be able to have the courage and have the patience to be looking at our politicians more directly, with more information. As I've said before, we have a utopia coming, and if we don't have control over our politicians, as that utopia comes, then we won't have that utopia. We will be moved into whatever needs that the country has, without the rewards. This middle class of America has been stronger and done more than my own. I know I'm biased, but than any other. As a matter of fact, all the middle classes, around the world, is what the economy is built on, and we have no say at how that money is spent. Hey guys, sorry, I was just taking off my sweater. We're in that time of the year where the mornings are very cool, very nice. This is fall out here, fall everywhere. Every part of the country has a different fall, but it's a nice time of the season. I really like it. My son once told me doing live shows is very difficult because things happen. I'm going to read you an email. So this is going to affect, there's a lot of people jumping on. I appreciate you being here. My monologue, I will read, although I have a feeling the show is going to be different because of this. So Matthew Madrid wrote me, in fairness, 2 hours ago, of which time I was creating all the other shows for this coming week and the Friday drop, and I already did the Wednesday, which dropped today. You guys ought to check that out. It's a pretty cool poem. And Barbieisms on Monday, doing all that, and obviously caught up into it, creating and writing these monologues to start practicing. So he gave me 2 hours notice and wrote, "Hey Rod, do you think we can run the podcast at 11:30 Mountain Time, which is 12:30 Central Time? Show starts at 1:30. I have to take my wife to her first day of internship by 1 o'clock. Oh, okay. And I really want to thank you or talk with you and be part of your show. I've been really looking forward to it." Well, I said, okay, if you show up, you show up. But You guys invest your time. Put you guys put this time into your day because the information's important to you. And and that's awesome. We love that. I mean, that's why this community continues to grow. But you also have the you also deserve to be acknowledging, though, while we're bringing you information, you're also honoring us with the interest and the pulling together, and certainly have enough notice to be able to make decisions on how your day is planned out. My only question to Matthew is, if today was your wife's first day of her internship, wasn't there that like a schedule thing or something that like you put into a schedule and realize that, hey, there's somebody else that's in this schedule of yours? And if you just found out, what, did you just wake up this morning and she told you? uh, I don't know how old you guys are, but there's 164 people here. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to carry the load of this show information, and I think through all of our different expert guests who actually show up. I'm pointing back at the email. Let me turn this down. Screen's too much light. So, but because I put so much effort, so much heart into these monologues, I am going to go through the monologue that I prepared for this show. So let me take a breath and say, I've met a. So why I said that other thing is because, I've seen a lot of, we do a lot of information and pull information and check for people's histories and what the shows they've been on and how that looks, all that kind of stuff, just to have a basic readiness for the episode today or whatever particular day. So this episode this monologue that I'm going to present you this morning, I'm sorry, it's afternoon now. This afternoon is written on all of that information, and so it really sounds juxtaposed right now because he won't be here, and maybe hopefully he'll come in and we can actually see the work that I put into this. It resulted in a person who has a lot to offer. So with that, I will go on with, I've met a lot of people on the show. Leaders, authors, survivors, experts with resumes a mile long. So, but every now and then, someone steps into our world here at Insights and Straight Talk with a message that hits right where the real battles are being fought. And that's part of the frustration when a really good message, and this is a message of mental health, but it's a message that comes from a different direction. And so when things happen, and it's difficult to put them back in a schedule somewhere else. So that's why I know I owe you guys the honor to go through and handle this, because I come through a lot of it on my own and I understand his story. So, when those battles are being fought, I'm talking about right now, not out there in the economy or in the workplace, but our headlines, but right here in the quiet corners of our own minds. And today's guest, which won't be here, Matthew Madrid, is one of those rare people. I wanted to tell you why this episode matters, not as a promo, not as a hype, but as a truth many of us never actually say out loud. Most of us are walking around with the story inside that says, I'm not enough. I'm too much. Who am I to lead? Who am I to speak? Who am I to take the next step? And the crazy part is this: the more responsibility we carry, the more we work, build, raise kids, lead teams, provide, survive, the louder that story seems to get. But Matthew flipped that story. And it's an awesome story. He flipped it on its head. He doesn't teach confidence like a performance. He doesn't preach ego or bravado. He doesn't tell you to fake it till you make it. He treats insecurity like a signal, a teacher, uh, invitation. What if your insecurity isn't the problem? What if the doorway to clarity, courage, and real persistence is not stoicism? That's the psychology. That's the human truth. And I'll tell you something personal. As someone who has lived through failure, reinvention, addiction, rebuilding, and someone who has written thousands of poems just trying to sort out my own mind, that message hits deep. I've lived through chapters that nearly took everything from me. I've wrestled with the inner critic that shows up at 2 a.m. and reminds you of every mistake you've ever made. And I know without hesitation that the stories we tell ourselves can either cage us or free us. Matthew gets that because he's lived it, because he's studied it, because he's coached thousands of others through it, and because he believes, like I do, that the American middle class is full of people who are tired of pretending to be perfect and just ready to learn how to be whole. Today's episode is about reclaiming your voice. It's about grounding yourself when life shakes you. It's about becoming secure from the inside out, right? Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. Matthew brings the frameworks, the Stoic roots, the human journal effect, which honestly blew me away because journaling is how I survived some of the darkest seasons in my life. He brings psychology, he brings NLP, but more importantly, he brings humanity. He brings a way to rewire the patterns that keep so many of us stuck in cycles of self-doubt, people-pleasing, over-explaining, and staying small. He teaches what he calls confidence without ego, a quiet, calm power, a way of showing up that isn't about domination, but integrity. And here's the way this show matters today. Right now, we're living in a world where AI is reshaping jobs, where families are stretched thin, where leaders are burning out, where teenagers, including my granddaughter, Emma Lynn, are facing pressures we just never imagined. Where adults nearing retirement are asking, what's my purpose now? And where everyday middle class Americans feel their voice slipping away. Confidence, real confidence, isn't optional anymore. It's survival. It's leadership. It's how we guide our families. It's how we navigate change. It's how we rebuild a future worth living in. And today, Matthew opens the door for every single one of you watching to step into a new story. I'll be doing that. A story rooted in courage, a story rooted in honesty, a story rooted in the belief that you don't need to become someone else. You just need to finally trust who you are becoming. So as you join us today, don't just listen, lean in. Ask the questions in the live chat. Bring your doubts. Bring your fears. Bring the stories you've never said out loud. Because this conversation is for the person who has spent years second guessing themselves. It's for the parent trying to lead their kids with calm in a chaotic world. It's for the professional walking into rooms where they feel overshadowed. It's for the leaders, the late bloomers, the survivors, the teenagers, the retirees, and the working class. Everybody, everyone who has ever wondered if they're enough. And I promise you, by the time we finish today's conversation, you will ask and walk away with something real.
something practical, something hopeful, something true. You will walk away knowing that your insecurities don't disqualify you. They refine you, they sharpen you, they teach you, and with the right tools, they can become your superpower. Today, we're not just doing a show. We're doing a turning point, an awakening, a conversation America's great middle class needs right now. So lean in, be here, be part of the movement, and bring your voice, because here it's at Insights and Straight Talk, your voice matters. And and all of that we will talk about today. As there may be questions, there's already a comment and comments, which I'll get into in a minute. I may redirect some, in other words, answering them through the lens of my life and experiences, and the lens of some of the other experts in this field that have been on the show many times before. This episode, is very personal and deserves, its just dues. There's 330 people on here. I want to thank you very much for supporting this cause. And as I say in the monologues, if you listen to those in the opening monologues and in the ends, this is a movement. This is a show about the great middle class, and there's these subjects that are all important, and then every few subjects really touch someone's life, my own included. And this is how do you say it? This is a journey that I have lived, as you all know, and so many of us has, and this particular journey, like yesterday, was a really big deal because the climate control, the climate thing going on, that's been going on for a long time. That climate thing is a critical subject to really deep engage with. And the reason that is because it's a critical moment. It's a turning point. It's a thing where there is so much, not diversity. That's not the right word. There's so much polarization about that particular subject. If we just on that subject alone dig down, get everybody in the room, people that work the field, so to speak, in the power lines, on the repairing roads, highways when it's 110 degrees outside. That the people that know the most about how to fix this, are never in the conversation. That's a pivotal conversation, and this is a pivotal conversation. Both ask who's going to be at the table when questions are asked and answered. Who's going to be invited? Who's going to be left behind? In all of these aspects of our lives in the great American middle class, we have. Let me turn that on so you guys can see the questions that are there. We have an opportunity to take our voice back and to take the narrative back, and it's only going to come by our efforts. It's not going to come through any help of the legislative branch or either side, really. Overall, there may be individuals, absolutely. I'm not a total expert on government, but I know a lot about the needs of the great middle class. And I also am very aware of how this country was built and put together, and the intentions of our founding fathers, and what's happening in the world today and over decades of time. I'm in my 60s, as you all know, and so as I put in an upcoming monologue I put down for Friday, that's the open mic that's behind the mic. If our leaders are going to stand up and speak for the great middle class, then we have to come together and do that for them. And we have to make the decisions of who deserves to continue to serve, or who may be a better person to serve than the one currently in that position. The House, the Senate, the one side of the aisle, the other. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. The only people who matter are you, this community. And let me start off in this community with a question from Joe Shepard. I haven't read any of these questions, so I may have to peek down. I apologize. How do we know whether our insecurity is a signal or just fear talking? Well, our insecurity is a very real thing. And yes, it's fear talking. And yes, it's a signal. But it's also a signal that needs to be adjusted. It needs to know where its root comes from. That signal comes from your past, from your upbringing, somewhere. We always talk about building from the inside out. And the reason we talk about, and a lot of people talk about it, but it's really it's not a tagline, but it's really a descriptive moment in most conversations that everybody has, whether it's out loud or not, that part. But inside out is because we have to build our hey, Bradley Pomp is on. Bradley Pomp in the house. Sorry, there's a thing that we got. So we come from the inside out. So it's both things. It is fear because you haven't adjusted the signal yet. Okay. Or don't know. You don't have the tools yet. That's why I was so excited about Matthew being on, because he's bringing this subject from a different angle, let's say. So confidence and leadership and succeeding in life, and making the most of your life, and having both quality in the quantity you have of life, and more, all these things, they're all kind of interwoven, because it comes from the inside out. And we all are born and then immediately go into our circumstances, whatever that is, good, bad, or indifferent. And in this case, there are ways we still need to learn, tools. Not enough have been passed down to in the next generations. There are tools there that are passive tools that start slow and build from a place where the next generation, you're building them from the inside out. Because tragedy is what creates, we start off as perfect human beings, and then from there, the effects are a continuation, then a one direction or another, helpful, hurtful, devastating, amazing. There are special relationships, and then there are the opposite, other extreme of this conversation. Most are in the middle, where there's faults and this and that, and how those reactions back and forth between the parent and the adult, or that outside world that this creature now has come from a mother's womb out into this bright, smack you on the ass to get the lungs going, and then a whole bunch of beauty and love and this and that, with maybe an occasional something as a teaching element. And so all that from there, all the effects of your life. We always talk about life being seen through. We know one person lives the same life, because everything we see, every experience we have from back then when it was building, is now only adding into what is already there, the channels that are laid out, or the synapses that are laid out. And the only way to create new synapses or new roads or new channels is to actively do that. We'll put that aside. So I'm kind of building a base for today's show with this. And thank you, Joe. You gave me the perfect question to kind of make a broad envelope into this whole thing that we're talking about. Because in that, in that experience of they say your personality is fully developed by 5. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but suppose, as I understand it, is I think everybody understands it. Now there's a lot of things that change, but your core personality is set in stone at age 5, somewhere in there. So there's that. And then now if that was evil and horrific and to whatever degrees, then you're creating your personality and how you react and see and become, and so the base, right? That's the base, and then from there are the reactions, and then from there so that's the outside of you, right? The personality, that's kind of the outside of you, and then from there your continuations and can be completely devastating and brought completely back, or could be awesome, and then drugs or something turns that into something different, or any millions and billions of examples in between. But what that does is that builds how you take in information. So your personality is outward, and the rest of everything else is how you process that, and then see yourself to the world. Okay, so the first one's how you want everybody to see you, but then the honestly, the bigger part, I say the heart has got emotion. It's more powerful than the other two brains, especially at times. So then you process how you look to the rest of the world, and that really creates your daily journey of life, because how you see yourself is how you then portray yourself to the world. Not the mass thing I'm talking about before. That's just more show. That's just more of that. That's another story. I'm just talking about not how you then react to that. I'm just talking about how you initially receive that. And so your daily life becomes better, or worse, or somewhere in the between of those. And that's all where insecurity comes from. It comes from those two early. It's the inner child, they call it. So everything that builds up to that, and then you mix in your own DNA and your and what you're bringing in is your all those experiences, your family life, how they feel about each other. It's kind of mixed in, but it's not 100% because we're human, because we can change and grow and learn. So, to Joe, how long did that go? How do we know whether your insecurity is a signal or just fear talking? It's both. Kenneth, okay, I got to get closer. I can't see these. What's the first step to turning off self-doubt into action? Turning self-doubt into action. Well, I mean, there's a lot of professionals in the world that are, good, from good to amazing to beyond. And, a knee-jerk reaction, I would pick up some material from experts and start turning, start making. I'll turn this around a little bit on you. Making action, doing things. And that doing things has to do with, refer to Fridays, because I just did Friday's monologue right before the show, and turning that into a tool, like what Matt says. By the way, thank you, Kenneth, and by the way, thank you, Mangum City Library, for your amazing facility. The beautiful people that are here. Every day I see patrons coming in and out of the library, and kids playing games, all range of games. And it's truly mixing raw educational and data. Let's say all the internet's gone. Here's the hub of information, right? It's mixing that with current technology, and nobody ever not has a good time here. One of my favorites of all the crew is Roxy. Roxy's a dog, a regular standard sized poodle. It took me a little while to get into her heart for some reason, because I'm a really big dog guy. But it took her a little while. But man, her and I just have an awesome relationship. She's a sweetheart. She's part of the library, and now and also City Hall is stolen some of our time, because Roxy in the morning goes there now and comes over in the afternoon. So anyway, what's the first step of turning self-doubt into action? It's the other way around, right? Kenneth, you got to take some action. You got to first decide that, okay, I'm self-doubting myself. You know what I'm trying to say there. And so you got to recognize, right? And then be honest. You know, it's like in AA, we first two steps were admit that you have a problem. You have to admit, you have to know, you have to say, why do I always self-doubt myself? Now, that's easy. I think we do that kind of regularly as a human species. You know, that bad talk to yourself, that negative talk you hear about. But this time you have to say, okay, but it's time to fix that. It's time to change that. That does not have to be. And I say that from experience. And you don't have to wait till you leave yourself no other choice. You either fall off the cliff and are never seen from again, or you frickin' make it change. So you have to be honest with yourself to say, okay, it's time. Just like in AA, it's any other thing. It's not a sickness. It's just there. And we're human beings, and we always talk about from the inside out. And there's nothing more important than this. This is the core from the inside out, because you have to take that action. You have to make that moment important enough for you to have it have legs, if you want to call it that, or have fuel for you to do it again. Take that decision, do it again. What am I going to need to do next? Do it again. And it's not, we talk about these things all the time. You're not making gigantic, big, scary step adjustments. You're making very small moments and decisions to have a better life that you now already know and have admitted to yourself you deserve and can have. Because as we look through the lens of our lives, we see our own world. You need to change the perceptions, the synapses, add synapses. You need to make that adjustment so that your world moves in a direction that you deserve. And you know what you deserve. It may take a little work to put that into words, or pull it from maybe an angry spot into a productive channel. But you know you deserve. You may have lived a life that always told you didn't, but deep down, sometimes really deep down, it's all there. We're human beings. There's not a one of us that are alike. And yet every one of us are human beings. We have a certain frequency or energy, and that varies depending on us. But we've got a brain. We have 3 brains, right? But let's use this one just to not make the other too much involved in this conversation. Unless I get a gut feeling that I'm saying stuff wrong. You have a brain that has synapses that when you create new skills, you learn new habits, you have new hobbies, all these things. But when you create a new conversation within yourself, it begins to grow those synapses that now change step. Just little at a time is stepping that towards that new moment. Now that actually will probably create a pretty interesting uh, personality shift, um, because it's amazing. It's amazing we don't know exactly how amazing the human, not the American, well, the American, but setting that aside, the human structure is, um, and it's constantly evolving, but we're here living it, so we don't see that evolution, and most of the evolution is in height, right, and body structure. I'm sorry, that's some of the evolution, certainly gotten bigger, but man, our brains, that ability, that cognitive um, curiosity and ability is stretched far beyond the evolution, as I believe it, of others. And 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 I only say that because we as a general species also don't promote that within ourselves. We actually promote the opposite, and society does that, and our friends, jealous friends, do that, and jealous family members and others, and so forth. It's just what it is. So if you want to turn self-doubt into action, it's the other way around, brother. It's like, I'll use this, Kenneth. um, there's a movie, and I've referenced this a number of times over the year or so of this show, but there's a movie that I love. The movie. It's a movie about God. I think I don't know if there's a lot of them that are like that, but it's like the Noah Ark one. I think it's called. It's really was a popular movie a long time ago. Number of very famous actors in it, but the wife of Noah, who was building this ark, and she was thinking he was crazy and other things, as the rest of society around him was. And that has nothing to do with this story necessarily. It's an offshoot. But she had explained, he had said he's behind the counter, and she was all frazzled, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm okay." And he goes, "You sure you're okay?" I'm paraphrasing. And she goes, "It's just my husband. He's building that thing out there." And the actor says, uh, I don't I don't remember how that exchange went, but she was really having difficulty with this. And he when she was finished, he paused and he said, "You know, people ask for patience. God doesn't just give them patience. God presents challenges or pieces or places in their life that they have the opportunity to build more patience with." And I forever, and this isn't turning into a religious show, but it is something that I truly believe, and the way that it was portrayed in that scene, because for my entire life I've had a relationship off and on with the Lord, and and even while on, it was different than it is. I was going to say was this time. It still is. Than it is, and and it's caused me to kind of slow down and start actually building from the inside out. Because during that whole time when I was on again, off again, but never really on with the Lord, I don't know why I paused that way when I said, when I was on again, off again, and paused with the heavens, with God, with our heavenly Creator. Um, all of that time, I wasn't living my own journey, and I looked back the other day, and I'll cut this short because I know I'm getting way off track here. But I looked back the other day and really realized how how much different I was, and I look back at my journeys through religion and my thoughts on how things and my actions as I went through all of that. And it's not a big deal. It's not a big spiritual deal. It's not anything. But we reflect back on our lives, and 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 I had this thing happen a couple of days ago, and and I normally would have reacted away in a certain way, and instead I just kind of realized that, oh, I get it. And I started putting some dots together, and I started hearing the reasons why. And and in AA, they talk about giving it over to a higher power. And I've played with that all of my life, as everybody does, in the way that everybody does. But the other day I told somebody something shifted. Something is arrived. Something shifted, and it's it's probably going to happen again, or I may the world is filled with people like me who are imperfect humans, and but I am telling you this: uh, it self doubt is a journey back from, and as many tools as you have with you to bring that journey even softer, much less makeable. Um, that's some of the experiences I've had, and like I said, a professional, where I was just speaking about the higher power, and that all starts a lot of times, quite often, I believe, especially if you're going to make that journey with somebody close to you, somebody who is that bridge. And you guys all know that I speak about producer Barbie in that context, and that hasn't changed, or I see no reason for it to change. But as far as taking that action, the first and easiest step, especially if you're already in self-doubt. Sorry, I didn't mean to giggle there, but I mean, it's kind of an obvious thing, especially if you're mired in self-doubt. Then go to that one person that you can open up to. You can say something, and you'll be heard. Okay, that's what I would do. So thank you very much, Kenneth. Gerard, how you doing, brother? How can beginners practice Stoicism in daily life? So Stoic, and I can only speak of this. Sorry, guys, we got a late notice on this, so our guest is not actually here. But I think a well well dug into series of questions here is a worthwhile investment for your attendance to today's show. Well over 300 people still here, and I appreciate you being here. Please subscribe and like the episode. So back to Gerard here. How can beginners practice Stoicism in a daily life? So being Stoic is kind of settled in comfort of who you are, built from your past, right? If you're Stoic, you're thoughtful, you're rememberative, you're kind of that sea captain, right? Don't you think when you think of a sea captain, you think of a Stoic or having Stoicism figure, and that goes back to this message is beginning that in a daily life is a step. So I refer to this. So this show, when we did our first live, let's say, was a single step on a 1,000-mile journey. I mean, there wasn't much we knew about what we were doing at all. I have never been concerned about being behind the mic, so that was there, which was never me. I mean, if you couldn't talk, I guess we would have started further back. But and Barbie did her part. She didn't like to come on camera, but she would speak from the audience, and she would produce and present that as a before our audience members really started asking questions, she was the pilot light that kind of brought the flame to, okay, so what's that about? Tell me more about that, because it's usually the one that's first in line that takes all the arrows, but opens up the doorway for others to do the same. So I don't remember how producer Barbie got in there, but that being having stoicism or being stoic is a practice. Oh, the 1,000 miles. So it's probably not going to be 1,000 miles there, Gerard, but you look like a pretty already partially the way there, dude. So being having that mannerism obviously adds a layer, adds a flavor, adds a color between the layers into your life, into how you are seen by the outside world. Remember we talked about your personality is what you want what you've developed as the base of how you will present yourself to the world. And if that's not already there, then you need to go back. You need to build from the inside out. And there are steps each day, as you're talking about, Gerard, and those steps are bringing that action into place. And as far as the specific tests or steps or what that looks like with Matthew's course, uh, we'll have to find out another way. I won't go through this subject this way. Well, I won't ever say I won't, but typically it's hard to make an adjustment when you're on the run all the time, and so maybe a little bit later it won't matter so much. But now we're booked into the December area, and we'll take that at its time. But for me, the Stoicism is an approach, and it's not any big deal. I mean, it's the confidence in ourselves to just be able to do it, and just be able to talk to somebody, a higher power. Just talk to something that says, I want to have more stoicism. What can I do today to be more stoic in my life? And those answers will come to you. You have no idea how amazing the human heart and the human soul, the human brain, all coupled with gut instinct. There's such an ability there that we don't ever use. I compare that to our voting, our having the right politicians in place. Honestly, one's inside and one's how the government treats us. Both very similar, important issues. Yeah. So I mean, Gerard, I would say that if you wanted more on that subject, I'd love to talk about it. What is the biggest mistake people make when trying to build confidence? Ah, comparing themselves. Absolute boom. I mean, I don't. That one didn't even need a long explanation, but I'll give you one. Biggest mistake is comparing yourself, or trying to be. The other side of it is trying to be aggressive and say, um, uh, I'm confident, so I'm gonna portray myself this way. You really need to kind of put a picture on it. When you're showing and building confidence, you need to put a picture on it. As children, we were taught by our parents about being confident and what that looks like, and how that is within our lives. As we've grown up, those were the tools that were given to us about being confident. So there's a number of pitfalls, let's just say, missteps that can happen when you're trying to build confidence. One of them is comparing yourself to anybody else. You're your own unique, beautiful human being. Now, in your own mind, you might feel faulted or imperfect or worse. But that's where your world lives. So you've got to change that, because quality is at least as important as quantity, at least as important. So you can't compare yourself to others. You're your own unique beast, good, bad, or indifferent. And you have the control. And it's harder sometimes and easier sometimes. But I heard a comedian say once, who you want to be is between you and the effort you haven't made to get to be it. Where you are, and between that is the effort you've ignored to get there, to be where you want to be. And that's true for every human being. And you can always make extreme examples, I would imagine, but why? So I'm just going to say every human being, right? You have that ability, and we're talking about here right now. So you can't compare yourself, and you can't be like an ass about it, because I just imagine this. I mean, not that I haven't done a billion things wrong in my own world and house and life, but I imagine being very thirsty and, starving from thirst, and then opening up a water hose, a fire hydrant, and blasting it out. You can't go from that to that. You got to know who you are, how, because confidence builds when other people see it. Let me take that back. Confidence builds within you when other people see it coming from you. And so you don't want to compare yourself to that cocky whatever over there, that really big wallflower, insecure, never looks at anybody in the eyes over here. And somewhere in here, you're wanting to know this, Dennis, because you're moving into a place you're not familiar with. And your brain doesn't like that. It likes to be happy, and it likes to, be in control and move life along. So when you try something new, it has to work. So you get headaches. you get like, oh man, I can't do this anymore. You get doubt, you get all those things. Those are those chemicals coming out. But what you have to realize is, you haven't failed. You're just at a place most people give up on. So you need to just keep going, right? Yeah. You need to just keep moving along, and why not? This is you. You're not doing this for somebody else, and you should never do it for somebody else. This is for you. This should be fun. And yes, it's hard. I guess it's like working out. I like working out, but sometimes it's just tiring and it's hard. But then I look back a couple of years and I go, okay. I get it's fun. This show, I mean, I love doing the show. Sometimes it gets a little monotonous, and sometimes guests don't show up, and it gets a little frustrating. But you also see the improvement in the self exploration. In other words, what I'm saying is the rewards make it all worthwhile. Do confidence right. Do it within yourself. Do it step at a time. Get help. Talk to people. Talk to your bestie. I didn't mean that just towards girls. I was actually thinking of Barbie when I said that. Or your best friend. Guys are less like, I don't know. I'm not an expert. But that hopefully leads maybe to some more professional help, or if you've got some people. But especially in this one right here with you, Dennis, don't be careful not to reach out to anybody who's judgy in any way. And I don't know if that helps or hurts, but the judgy thing seems to be me important. Bradley Pomp, how you doing? Did you hear me shout you out right at the beginning of the show? Good to see you here, brother. So what are you asking? How do you avoid performing confidence and stay authentic? Great question. That kind of was going into. And in my opening monologue, this hits it perfect, because that whole world back in the 80s, I think it was. And not the 80s, probably the 90s. Yeah, 90s, early 2000s. All of the 90s and early 2000s, and I guess beyond. So do you remember Fake It Till You Make It? Do you remember fake it till you make it? That was performance. What do you call it? Performing confidence. And I think the baby boomers came out of that because we had so much pressure to succeed because the government kept telling us how wonderful our life is. And so we all went way beyond what any other generation had done as far as putting effort into building things and creating things and having babies. We did good at that too. Because and on top of that, we were, I think we still are, maybe Gen X is bigger. I don't know. I think there's a couple that are big coming, which means good for the economy. But we came from that from the working part of that the working part of us came from that part of the generation, 90s, 2000s, and beyond, where you're in the silent pressure to make it. Otherwise, you're not part of the middle class. You're not one of us. You're not the baby boomer success. You're not part of the baby boomer success story. So, we talk about those pressures always in life, and each generation goes through the same pressures. They just look different. So, being authentic, you have to really, and there's a lot of people out there that are, I mean, no doubt. I've seen a bunch of them on this show. But as a big, I mean, the question's being asked for because it's an important, big amount of numbers, right? So staying authentic is you being within yourself and knowing that you're either have it or you're lacking those tools, being honest with yourself, building from the inside out, having that gut instinct, having that heart, having those synapses wanting to be more and being curious, having friends that speak truth and you simply wanting to enjoy life. That's how you stay authentic. You want to enjoy life. And if you're not authentic, you can't have that. I mean, you're always, it's like you're never concerned about saying something if you never tell a lie. And that kind of relates in that you want to have a good life, just be authentic, man. Just be you. Be who you are. Build what you're going to become out of who you are. And take part of your life. You got to take part of it. You got to have an effort in your own life. I've learned all of these things way too late. Everybody needs to learn them right out of the gate. Regeneration School Project, quick plug there. I think that's an important aspect of all these things we're talking about. But to this, being authentic is don't wait until you have a situation like me. Just start. Just listen to this show. This show every day is about coming from the total opposite, everything we're talking about here, coming from that to being authentic. It's a journey. It's an effort. It's a 1,000-mile, but I think I might be on like 75 or 80 now, something like that. But it's fun. I mean, I feel better about me than I ever have in my life. So, Bradley, I hope that helps, brother. So we're coming up on an hour here. What's one simple habit to build grounded confidence each morning? Be appreciative. We're talking about being stoicism earlier. That's part of it as well, coming from an area of appreciation. But how to build that every day? They say when you do your prayers at night, that's speaking to God. They say when you're meditating or being quiet or just sitting within yourself, you're listening to God. Whatever those truths are for you, one daily habit at the very least is just to take a couple minutes, take a minute, just sit there. You don't even have to say anything. And it doesn't matter if your mind starts to wander, just bring it back. Take some deep breaths, and in those breaths, at the very least, just make sure that the one going out is longer than the one coming in, because even in those moments, your brain starts to know what it needs to be grounded, to be confident. It knows those next step comes. And then a little later in the day, something else seems to sparkle in, or sprinkle in, I should say. Something happens there. It's important that you take active participation in your own life. I look at my past. All of this sounds like bullshit. And honestly, it isn't bullshit, but it is a different life than I led before. I'm moving forward. I'm having a better effect on the world. I'm carrying this message that I hear every day is important. And most importantly, in that chain there, I want to bring in the strongest part of the chain. And that, as Barbie has put, which has always stuck with me, I built my machinery business from ego, I had pride, and I had specific things I wanted to do, but not for a journey or a better purpose, but because of ego. I can do this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a comparison, and what I'm talking about here in this show today, she said, that was for ego. This is for love. And the power, and I know, I had listening to this as a teenager, knowing the 60s and 70s were right in front of me, and the Haight Ashbury and the Love Not War, or I don't know, whatever, Love Not Hate, and all those hippie things. Every once in a while, in this elderly age of 60s, I start to go, before I would have said, oh, that sounds so hippie. But, love is, it's so much how the pendulum swings. And we've been way over here where love is, we just need to keep it here in the middle. But when I say that, love is an important and critical thing, and being grounded. And it starts with loving yourself first. And then it starts with that vibe that goes out. And then those people receive that vibe. When you're walking by somebody today, wave at them if you don't know them. Say hi. Have a conversation. Know your energy that you're putting out into the world. Love that energy. Be that energy. Okay, now I'm starting to sound a little hippie, because this is Insights and Straight Talk. I'm Rodd Duff, and stay after the outro, because I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.